Know your place. Be a shoe. Snowpiercer. I generally don't do straightforward movie reviews on here, largely just because I rarely get to see stuff when it first comes out. But this one I do want to talk about because it only had a limited release and it's not going to be available to see on disc until the end of October. And I want to get my thoughts in before that happens. Now this is the English language debut of Korean director Bong Joon-ho, who I know as the director of The Host. No, not that one. God, no, the other one, yes, that one, the monster one. Whew. So Snowpiercer is set in the future and is dealing with a post-apocalyptic scenario where, in an attempt to try and reverse global warming, humans inadvertently set off a new ice age. Not just a regular ice age, like a mega ice age. Everything is dead. The only survivors are the occupants of this train. It's in perpetual motion around the globe, and it's divided very rigidly by class. The most wretched people are stuck in the back of the train, and the people in front and control, obviously, living a much nicer life. Now, the people stuck in the back, they have been putting up with it for years, and after years of maltreatment, they are ready to storm the train, take control of the engine. This is the kind of big concept sci-fi that really doesn't get made all that much anymore. I think part of the problem is studios tend to fear that audiences will start poking holes in the basic premise right off the bat. But if you're doing that and you're questioning the logical or scientific viability of the opening premise of the film, then you've missed the point, because the point is not the train and the ice age. These are just concepts being used to explore bigger questions of things like class warfare, societal obligation, and human nature. These sorts of movies really had their heyday in the 60s and 70s when sci-fi concepts were used to explore social situations before Star Wars came along, and every sci-fi movie since then has just been about giving us explosions in space. And really, whether or not you can set that expectation aside is going to be the key to whether or not you're going to enjoy this film. Because having been raised by and trained by American movies, there is a point about midway through this movie that it takes a shift. And if you can't get your head out of the American blockbuster mentality, the movie might well lose you. Because right at the point where, if this was an American movie with an American director made by an American studio, the point at which the thing would just step on the gas and go full throttle to the climax is exactly where it slows down. And it does that deliberately, and it does it with a purpose to make sure you're paying attention. And you've got to be able to make that gear shift with the movie so that you can take in what it's doing. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there checking your watch waiting for the next action scene. Now, don't get me wrong, there are more action scenes later on, and they're really good. They're well constructed, they're great set pieces, but the action is not the point. And the movie is not going to let you get away with sitting through it just to watch the action scene. If you can make that shift, there is a lot to enjoy and soak in about this movie. Aside from just the big concepts that it deals with, dealing with them very interestingly and very well, it also offers something that we so rarely see anymore: genuine cast diversity. Okay, yeah, sure, we've got Captain America, Chris Evans in the lead. He does fantastic work, for the record, though. But we've also got front and center main characters, this Korean father and daughter who are speaking Korean for most of the movie. You've got Octavia Spencer right up there. And even amongst the rest of the white guys, we've got diversity in terms of Jamie Bell, we've got John Hurt, we've got Luke Pasqualino. You know, there's this mix of ethnicities and ages and agendas. I mean, it's both refreshing unto itself. It helps with the notion of this really is just a microcosm for the world. And some of the points that the film is trying to make, it helps make them all the better. As good as all those cast members who I've already talked about are, though, the standout is Tilda Swinton. She plays this sort of middle management type, and she's almost impossible to describe. She is bizarre and over the top in a way like, is this a joke? Is she a caricature? But there's actually a lot of depth and a lot of layers. I mean, to give you an idea of how ridiculous this woman is, her first big speech directed at the occupants of the back of the train, she compares them to a shoe and says that their desire to move further up in the cars and the train, it's like putting a shoe on your head. I mean, it's ridiculous and it should break the movie, but the more you see her, the more you sort of see slightly behind this facade of insanity that's up there, and you get the depths of what she's doing. I mean, she was mesmerizing every second she was on the screen. If there's one complaint I might have about this movie, it might be that it's trying to tackle a few too many ideas. There's some stuff that's just kind of tacked on there with ideas about indoctrination. There's a little bit in there about drug addiction that they feel a little bit tacked on, but thankfully not in a way that's distracting. They are there. It doesn't delve too much into them, but they don't distract from the main points that the thing is making about human nature and the role of authority and its bigger concepts. And the fact that these are just kind of there but not delved into overly actually kind of helps sell the idea that this train is the world trapped in a bottle, and it brings all the problems. As I said, the action scenes are really good, but like I mentioned, you gotta be sure that you can get out of the normal blockbuster mindset, because this is not a standard blockbuster. It's got some blockbuster beats, and it's got some really well executed stuff. If you go in there wanting good action, you're gonna get good action. But if that's all you're going in for, you are gonna come away confused and disappointed and probably a little annoyed. But if you can just go and be willing to travel to where this movie wants to take you, you're not gonna regret seeing it. Whether you agree with the side that it takes on some of these points or not, it's just really fascinating to see a movie this well executed in dealing with these kinds of questions. Now, like I said, this sort of movie had its heyday back in the 60s and 70s, so out of those sorts of high concept sci-fi films that tackle social issues, what was your favorite of this kind of movie? I'm talking about things like Soylent Green, Silent Running, Logan's Run, the original Planet of the Apes, those sorts of films. What's your personal favorite? Whatever it is, drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. Until next time, this council is adjourned.